Good morning, good morning, good morning, and good morning. It's a big day for Celtic as we go into the Europa. Martin O'Neill had his say last night on the Celtic team. And he's give a bit of a word of warning to the board. I love Martin O'Neill. I think he's been a breath of fresh air. It's been a fabulous November bringing him in. And you've got to remember, if we didn't bring in Martin O'Neill, here's the caveat that we need. This is the wake-up call that we really needed. If we didn't bring Martin O'Neill in, we would have been left ultimately with John Kennedy. And I do not think that John Kennedy would have got more out of these players than what Martin O'Neill did. I think that the players would have just seen it as the same old. I think that the players, for whatever reason, wouldn't have played the same under Martin O'Neill as John Kennedy. I think that we would have lost more room in the league. I think that the gap may have even extended in the league and we could have been down to third, fourth position by now. So I think that having Martin O'Neill come in has been fantastic for the fans. It's been fantastic for the club. But Martin O'Neill last night told the board maybe what they didn't really want to hear. When he spoke to the media, he says, look, if you've recruited a manager, that's fine. But player recruitment is essential and really important. Last year, in terms of Europe, it was nice. It was like a shining light for Celtic. You know, if we could just push on. Martin O'Neill's been here before. Martin O'Neill's not only read this story before, Martin O'Neill's been in this story before. When we got to Seville in 2003, Martin O'Neill wanted to push on. He wanted to bring in more players to try and get to another European final, to win the damn thing. He felt aggravated, disappointed, cheated. Especially at Deco. But when you look back at it, the Celtic board didn't invest. The Celtic board didn't back the manager the way the manager wanted to. And it ultimately made Martin O'Neill leave a year after that. It was 2 seasons really, wasn't it? But when you look at it, the new manager is coming in. And he says, when I step back, or when anyone steps back and looks at this Celtic squad, it's not so strong. In the next couple of years, he says, Celtic will come into European football and they might as well just step back because right now the squad isn't where it should be. People always say about a January window being difficult, and it may well be, but if you're talking about rebuilding the club to try to compete in Europe, there's going to have to be a big intake of breath when someone expects you to go to Feyenoord and win. Because this Celtic team are not there. Martin O'Neill's not confident that we can go there. He says that Jock Stein said that European football is where Celtic should be. But at this minute, it's a real struggle. For many years, it's been a real struggle. We've brought in big name managers like Brendan Rodgers, who had a win rate of 50% when he was at Liverpool. We brought in Ange Postecoglou, and it was a new dawn at Celtic. It was meant to be a new time, a new exciting time where we build for European football. And we haven't built for European football. Yes, we all know the way that the club is run and the fact that the club, we're a selling club. We're a club that go out and buy players with the view to sell on for mass profits. But let's be honest. I think that Celtic Football Club could earn more money in the Champions League than it would by selling one player for 25 million every couple of seasons. If you look at the money that's to be made in the Champions League, and yes, you want to bring players in, you want to make them better, and ultimately, players will use Celtic as a springboard. Managers will use Celtic as a springboard. There's nothing to say that Wilfred Nancy will not come in and do a fantastic job. And yes, 2 years' time, someone else might come calling for Wilfred Nancy. Brother Wilfred may stay a little bit longer. He may see it as a 3 to 5 year plan. But we all know football. And we all know that that's more than likely not going to happen. If Brother Wilfred comes in and he is absolutely amazing for Celtic, he completely turns the club around. If he makes any inroads into European football at all, he will be sought after by the big guns of Europe. Mark my words for it. And if he does, and if it does happen, I'm sure that he'll go with our best wishes. But only if he gets us back to winning ways when it comes to European football. Winning the treble, you know, it's the standard that Celtic have set over the last 10 years. 25 years ago, Martin O'Neill said that just winning the league was the most important thing. Trebles were hard done by. The fact that Martin O'Neill did a treble, it had been a long, long time since Celtic had managed a treble. You've got to go back from Martin O'Neill, you've got to go back to a legendary manager in the 1960s. One that he referenced to quite a lot, because everyone that comes into Celtic, every single manager has a shadow over the top of them, whether they like it or not. And there's one thing, it's always going to be dark in the shadow of Jock Stein, because he won the big cup. And yes, this board have no aspirations to take us to go anywhere, but Martin O'Neill has laid it bare for the board when he said that Jock Stein said that European football is where Celtic should be, but at this minute it is a struggle. O'Neill believes that there's major work needed to improve the squad. He was asked about what Nancy will need to do. Wilfred, Brother Wilfred, we're calling him. Well, he's got a great captain who's a very good player who pulled us out at the weekends. He scored the goal against Rangers. You know, he's scored other goals. He says you've got some brilliant older players that are a group of winners that have been at the club for a long time, but they won't last forever. I think the new fella is going to have to learn how to lean on the boys that have been here for a while and that know how to win. You've got a group of younger players, said Martin O'Neill, who haven't really been doing that kind of thing in their career, consistently winning, and they maybe don't know what the club is all about. When you ask young players to be students of the game, I'm just telling them the way that they have to step up. When he talked about Brother Wilfred coming in, he says, look, right from the off, he has to win. You've got to win at Celtic. Over the last 20 years, it's obviously been the dominant force in Scottish football. But let's be honest, the same message will be given to any manager that comes in to Scottish football. My only advice to him would be was work with the players that you have and you'll win often enough. Winning's pretty good at Celtic, so we try to stick with that, he says. If you impose your own personality, your own style of play at our football club, it could pay off. Celtic go into the European game tonight with a must-win game. It's always a must-win game when it comes to Europe. But will we manage to do anything in the game? For me, I think it's going to be an interesting game tonight. It's fantastic that Martin O'Neill has warned the Celtic board, and he's warned Wilfred, Brother Wilfred, not to get involved at this in the civil war. Don't get involved. He says when Ange came in, obviously he wasn't getting results straight away. There was a lot of fans wanted Ange out of the club 7 games in, but it was a matter of time. Only a matter of time before Ange ball sort of kicked in, and then we started demolishing teams. The fact that Brother Wilfred's coming into the club just over the quarter-way mark through the season, you know, if we're going to be switching formations and style and stuff, could it have an adverse effect? Martin O'Neill came in and changed the style straight away. and we kind of went back to winning ways. And we played some good football, and there was no passing about side to side. Martin O'Neill does not want you passing the ball about at the back. Brother Wilfred will be the exact same. He says when it comes to the complete overhaul, we will undergo a complete overhaul. It is needed at Celtic. Switching of the formation style, it might take time. Can Celtic afford that time? It is unlikely. Can we keep on winning? More than likely. But when it comes to the team tonight, there's going to be one little player, one big player, that a lot of Celtic fans think that, maybe he's... And if he has the kind of nightmare that he's been not only having for Celtic at a European level, but he fucking got 4 goals scored against him by Scotland. Scotland are shite. and let's face it, I mean, nobody expected Kasper Schmeichel to lose 4 goals against Scotland, but Kasper Schmeichel will be the keeper tonight. Tony Ralston, will he drop to the bench for Colby Donovan to come back in? Colby Donovan's done a little bit better in European football than Ralston. Austin Trusty, Liam Scales, they're going to be the back line for Celtic because they're the only 2 players that we've got with any kind of experience. It shows you how thin this bloody squad is. And then you're going to have Kieran Tierney. I think that Kieran Tierney will start rather than Marcelo Sarachi because Sarachi's been out, and I think that they'll utilise Sarachi later on in the game. But let's face it, Kieran Tierney's got a cracking strike on him as well, and has definitely chinned up and upped his game since Martin O'Neill's come in. Will Hatate be dropped? Could Luke McCowan start? That's the big question. Or will one of the more expensive players start in Hatate's place? Hatate's the type of player that when he plays his A game, he turns up. But for too long at Celtic has Rio Hatate not turned up, and especially in big games. And this is a big game. It's a European game. Do you know? Schmeichel's over the hill at 40. No surprise he's shipping goals now. I don't think it's just about him being over the hill. I think that, yeah, it is. His reaction time is slow. He has been getting the ball out better and quicker from the back. That comes down to Martin O'Neill. Martin O'Neill completely changing the way that Schmeichel gets the ball out rather than this passing the ball out. You've got to remember that Martin O'Neill stood and criticised Brendan Rodgers live on television. Why do you play the ball side to side at the back? And Brendan Rodgers' narrative was, it's changing the point of attack. And Martin O'Neill looked at him and went, you slavering little shite, inside his head. And you could see Martin O'Neill's face changing the point of attack. The game is all about going forward at pace. And not only going forward at pace, but thank you for the super chat, Stanley, but entertaining the fans. Dropped like a hot potato. I think that he does need dropped like a hot potato, does Rio Hatate. Other players that may play tonight, if I think that Rio Hatate does need dropped for big games like this. I think he slows the game down too much. It's who do you put inside with him? Do you put Luke McCowan beside Carl McGregor? Do you put Luke McCowan out in the wing? Do you know, there's lots of different permutations that you could do. Daizen Maeda, he'll be put back out in the left wing. Johnny Kenny, will he start the game? Will Benji Negrin start the game on the right wing that he's done before? Martin O'Neill's definitely got some decisions to make. There's one thing that I think that will happen. I think Johnny Kenny will start the game due to the fact that Kelechi Iheanacho is not match fit. You could maybe bring him on for the first 20 minutes, but I think you've got a bigger impact bringing in someone that's been out for a month injured. I think that you would be better keeping him till the end of the game, as long as his hamstring doesn't pop. But anyway, Celtic wouldn't take him if they weren't 100% sure that he was fit enough to play some part. Martin O'Neill said that he's going to do a training session with the lads this morning. That training session will have already started. It's 9:46 here in Central European time. So they will have taken to, they would have had their breakfast at the hotel. I don't know where they're staying now, but Martin O'Neill will do a little warm-up session with the players. Just make sure that there's no little niggles for the game tonight before he's probably already picked the team that will start. And I think it's all just about making sure that the subs that they do have are more than capable for lasting at least 20 minutes towards the end of the game. And that will bring down the curtain tonight on Martin O'Neill's final European game. It's nice that Martin O'Neill has went into the press conference last night with the print media, and he's laid it on the plate for the board. He's laid it on the plate for the board saying, we need major overhaul. If you're going to build Celtic to compete in Europe, you have to, one, have players that are good enough to compete in Europe. You have to have players that are strong enough physically, mentally, and I've got to say it, speed. And there's one thing that this Celtic team doesn't have, and it doesn't seem to have the athleticism that some European nations do have. When you look at some of the teams with less money that have put out Celtic, even going back to Karat Almaty, they had a system and they stuck to it. Okay, they're getting the whipping boys in the Champions League, but they had a system and they stuck to it to beat Celtic. Celtic need to back Brother Wilfred to a level that would be expected under Brendan Rodgers and Ange Postecoglou. Because if they don't, the cries of sack the board will only increase, the protests will only increase, and it could be the fact that it could have the negative effect on the new incoming manager. And the new incoming manager, we don't know what lengthy contract he's going to get. Is it a 2-year contract? Will it be a 3-year contract? I think if it's a 2-year contract, he'll definitely be away after the 2 years. Doesn't matter how successful he'll be. Because if there is still all the protests going into this summer, and next summer should I say, and everything, if things haven't dramatically changed, why would anyone that could come in, and if he comes in and wins a treble, he might go, fuck, the club's a shambles back behind the scenes. It wouldn't surprise me if he come in this part of the season, wins a treble and walks away. One of the best known managers that we have over the years come in, won a trophy, won as the league, and walked away from Celtic. Let's hope that doesn't happen. If he wins the treble and walks away, that would just be the biggest slap in the face to the board. And it would maybe be the thing that pushes some people over the edge to maybe resign at Celtic. But I don't want that to happen. I want him to come in and have a fantastic 2 or 3 years at Celtic, because let's be honest, that is about as much as you'll get at Celtic. Champions League money is massive at a club like Celtic. A lot of people let themselves down, including the players, the board, and the manager. At the time, they did that. And if we can bring in Champions League money for 3 seasons in a row, does that, the way that the board should look at it is go all in. If you're a betting man, you're sitting at a poker table or whatever, you're sitting, playing Russian roulette or whatever, you go all in. You go all in on this guy. Because the financial gain, but it's will the Celtic board do it? Will they say, well, you've got a budget of 20 million. That's your transfer budget. But you've got 80 million in the bank. Yeah, I know, but that's to do us the next 2 or 3 years in case you fuck it up. Why don't you go, right, let's go all in. Let's go 30 million plus any player sales over the next 2 windows. This winter window, the summer window. Let's go all in on getting Champions League football. Not just for this year. Next season, should I say. Not just for next season. But the season after that. And the season after that. and you go in the Champions League for 3 years, and your income hits at 140 million for 3 years in a row, and you're banking massive profits, and you're not selling players, you're building a squad. The issue that we have at Celtic is that we've allowed players like Matt O'Reilly to leave. And I would say that he's probably one of the biggest ones. If we could have kept the squad, if you can keep the squad together like what Martin O'Neill did. Martin O'Neill had a pretty solid, settled squad for years. Yes, players would come in and, not live up to the expectations. And I think that's what Martin O'Neill's getting at when he had that press conference with the written media last night. He says that managers will come in, different styles, different ideas, but you've got one bit of thing that you need to do, and that's win at Celtic. If you find a style that wins, keep with it. He says he's got to win right from the off. Over the last 20 years, Celtic have been the dominant force in Scottish football. But being dominant in Scottish football is not where Celtic really want to be. Yes, it's all fine and well winning trebles, and we could sing and shout about it, and we can, have a laugh at everyone else. We can have a laugh at meltdowns. But I think that the time that this board really stood up and take notice, and especially when it's someone like Martin O'Neill. Martin O'Neill that knows the club inside out. Martin O'Neill went through the exact same thing years ago. We're fed up of history repeating itself. We're all fed up of history repeating itself. But as do you think when the new manager comes in, it could be the start of something special? Yes. Yes, I do. I think that if we can get away, as far away from the 4-3-3 is done. The 4-3-3 setup is done. If you look at any team in Europe now, they're playing a 4-2-3-1. Why Brendan Rodgers reverted back to the 4-3-3, I have no idea. Because he didn't want to upset players, and he wanted to keep playing players the way that they wanted to play. Fuck the players, you're the manager, grow a set of balls. Never mind trying to be their friend. I hope that Brother Wilfred comes in and just tells it as it is. And if you don't fucking like it, ta-ta. Tell your agent, find you a club, you're gone. Simple as that. I hope he is that type of manager. And I hope that, as I said last night in the live, I hope that he sits down with Martin O'Neill on Sunday evening after the Hibs game and has an open and frank conversation about where this board are, where the players are, ultimately. Winning the league and winning everything in Scotland is fine and dandy, but when you've had other clubs in Scotland have a better run in Europe, is that not even the slightest bit embarrassing to our owners, to our people upstairs? And they could say, oh, well, we backed the manager. Well, you obviously picked the wrong manager, and bringing back Brendan Rodgers wasn't the answer. But there we go. It is what it is, isn't it? Let's jump into the comments. You can't score goals when you're pushing about at the back. Yeah, and I hope that it's gone. Rio, more suited to Italian football, says Port Job Express, but slow as the game would think. I would actually say second league Spanish football. I watched a bit of the Cartagena game last night. Cracking stadium they've got. Lower league, better than anything in the SPFL, and it was a nice pace for Rio Hatate. Some good football, but anyway, Engels is far poorer than Hatate. Offers nothing. I think Engels offers better corners than Hatate. And that's all that Engels has got going for him just now, is his ability to pinpoint land a ball in the 6-yard box. Because we've had free kick takers, we've had corner takers that just haven't lived up to it. Luke McCown to a certain extent. Benji Negrin he needed somebody to come out and help him. The only pass mark that Arnie Engels gets just now is his assists from corners. Luke McCown, he's on from the start. He's not as lazy as the rest yet, but can he play and can he up his game at this level? Feeling nervous about tonight, but fingers crossed, says Helen. Hope the players step up tonight for Martin's last game in Europe. Yep. Not bothered about tonight. No injuries, please. More concerned about Hibs. I'm not really concerned about Hibs. I think that Hibs have Hibsed it. They should have been away further up the league. They should have been in second place. They're now two games in front of the majority of the SPFL. They should have been in second place. They've totally just... maybe Maeda will suddenly turn up again. Nope. Dyson, if he's on the wing, he'll turn up. But I'm expecting Dyson Maeda to go through the next 4 weeks in let's not get injured mode. He's going to be in Honda Civic in neutral mode, unfortunately, because he wants away at the next window. There's no denying he wants away. He will make sure that he plays enough to get pass marks, but he'll not play like Dyson Maeda last season. He'll not run and track back the way that he did like the season before. Who can blame him? He's wanting away. Yeah, he's winning. No more injuries. David Cook says, save British farmers. Brother of Ilford will take the old Arsenal team, pick up a load of old onion munchers. I don't think so. I'll be wearing my green flashing earrings tonight for good luck, says Helen. The problem with whoever manager was incoming and Martin O'Neill, Martin staying his problem. Nobody trusts the board. Yeah, trusting the board. I don't think the end. It's going to take a long time for fans to ever trust this board. Not being in the Champions League also affected the players' value. Matt O'Reilly and Kuhn got more exposure in the Champions League. Kuhn, well, let's not even talk about Kuhn because Como think that we sold him a dud. I mean, let's face it. I mean, Kuhn had half a season where he wasn't playing well because of his teeth, and then he had one good half season. Exactly. Speculate to accumulate. But it's not the way that this board do it. Board and poor management cost us big profits. Trebles are worthless in cash terms. It's all about bragging rights. Yeah, it is. It is all about bragging rights, and we've had 20 years of bragging, and I've said years back when we were on the road to 9 in a row, I can remember saying on buses going to games when we were talking about what could potentially happen after if we get to the 9, and I always said at the time, Rangers will do everything in their power, as would anybody with an affiliation to that club, to make sure that we didn't get the 10. It was all about stopping the 10. They had no interest in anything else. It was all about building up to stop the 10, and they done it. Celtic took their eye off the ball. Yes, there was things that, COVID, you just couldn't write the script for that. But the way that we came back after that year was impressive. We'll have to say that. And you've got to give the boards a little bit of credit for that. Because after the complete collapse of the team under Neil Lennon, and then the complete stupidity of chasing one manager for the best part of 6 months was woeful. I mean, it went on forever, never, chasing Eddie Howe. But then to go out and bring in Ange and back him the way that they did, with an unknown quantity. Let's face it. Ange came in and he brought these players in for Japan, and we were like, really? Is this going to work? And it did. So yeah, we're so poor in Europe as a whole, we'll never get automatic qualification for years now. Yeah. And that's the big... We're going to have to fight for it. We need a manager that is prepared to just go to the board and say, no, I want this player. Right, okay, you've got him. Within your budget. We can no longer keep on going. I mean, even the fact that we sold Kyogo, didn't bring anyone in. Sold Adam Ida. We brought in Kelechi Iheanacho, which I just think's mad. Whatever you think about Adam Eder, he'd scored 29 goals for Celtic in a season and a half. That's not a bad return at all. Shout out to Stephen Johnson, hope all's well today. Was he not in earlier? 30 million isn't enough, 40 plus backing the manager should be every season. No, you can't go out and spend 40 million every season. You shouldn't need to go out and spend 40 million every season. If you go out and spend 40 million every season, you're doing something wrong at a club like Celtic. When you look at teams that get into the Champions League, now even if it's just about getting into the Champions League and finishing 23rd, 24th, you don't need to spend 40 million every single year to do that. You go through a period where you put heavy investment in to buy players and put them on 5-year contracts. You then bring in 1-2 really good players every year to make the squad better. And this is the problem we've had at Celtic. We go out, we bring in a player for 1.5 million, Matt O'Reilly. Nobody expects big things of him. He goes through a season where he doesn't really achieve. One player leaves in the midfield. Matt O'Reilly gets to shine. Matt O'Reilly's then sold for 25 million. We then don't bring a player in that is even the same standard as Matt O'Reilly. And never mind putting out the fact that Matt O'Reilly's now worth 25. He wasn't worth 25 million when he came to Celtic. And that's the issue. We always seem to go down and get a player of a lower standard. Whoever looks at Balak Wisha for 2 years needs chucked out of Celtic. There's players that are at Celtic now. 5 years ago, they would never get anywhere near Celtic. Nowhere near it. And Martin O'Neill knows it. And that's why Martin O'Neill is prepared to come out and say, look, we need a major overhaul for European football. He's not excited about this game tonight. He's more fearful than anything. We spoke about it last night, saying that, Martin O'Neill, I hope he does come out and tell the truth about the standard of the squad. And it looks like he kind of did on a sly way last night that, you're going to have to back this new manager. If you want to come in and perform in a European context, if you want to get to the later stages, if you just want to get into Europe, and you just want to play your 6 games, and you want to bring the level of the club away down, that's fine. Tell us, and then we'll vote with our feet and stop going. But the board won't do that, because they know that if they come out and say, look, our target is to just get into Europe, it's not to achieve anything. If the board come out and said that, you would go back to Ronnie Dyler years with big sections of the stadium closed. And I think it would be worse than the Ronnie Dyler years if they were to come out and say that. There would be massive boycotts of European games. Massive boycotts. Because people would say, well, what's the point? If you're not prepared to put in the money and you're not prepared to put up a fight for Celtic being in Europe, why should we bother turning up? Why should we bother paying our money to sit in a freezing cold Celtic Park in the middle of bloody winter, late autumn, winter, freezing your chacks off on plastic seats? What's the point? What's the point? But the board won't do that. But anyway, we move on. I always enjoy 2 front up. Yeah, it's me too, and I hope that's something that we revert to. If the board does not buck up, we'll be back to square one, because Nancy sounds like he will speak up and make his point regardless. I think so. After the budget yesterday, Labour will come in and Celtic's cash reserves for more tax. Seems to be the way we retreat from a position of strength. We always do it. We always do it. Managed decline. We've had so many chances over the years. We had a chance in 2012 to bury a club forever that should never have been allowed back into Scottish football, should never have been allowed into the bottom tier. They were liquidated. They died. They were given a free, wee sneaky backdoor entry into Scottish football. Boa Vista, who Celtic played in Europe, have just went into liquidation and are getting ready to be wiped off the map. Celtic didn't push for that. You can guarantee if that was us in the 1990s, Rangers would be hammering on the top of the coffin with nails that could make sure that we could never get it open again. But this board decided not to go down that road, and we allowed them to get a lifeline. Why not play KT on the right and Sriracha on the left? I don't think that's... not too sure. But we'll wait and see, you never know. Paul Baird did warn us plenty of times, but we ignored them. Yeah, it's true, isn't it? I mean, Paul Baird's sitting like... Fucking told yous all. But anyway, we move on. 11 million for a corner taker, lol. Even those corners are poor now. Yeah. But that's Celtic. I mean, we paid 9 million for Adam Ida. He was a £3 million player. Adam Ida was a £3 million player. The people at the club that run the club got taken for a ride. Do you know? They can sit and give themselves little... You done alright there, son. We'll get you a wee bonus. There's another 150 grand bonus for you. They can give themselves a pat on the back when the club makes record profits. But when you target a player that's worth 3 million, you get him on loan, you don't get an option to buy, you then piss about all summer, and then when the shit hits the fan, when Kyogo goes, my fucking shoulder again, all of a sudden Celtic have got £9 million to give Norwich the very next day to get in Adam Ida. That's not good business. And I think that 11 million for Arne Engels, even though he's a young guy, I don't think that he's going to, at Celtic anyway, I don't think he's going to go up to the £30 million category anytime soon. And I think that he was maybe brought in to take over from Matt O'Reilly, but just doesn't seem to be hitting the heights that Matt O'Reilly could ever hit. Let's hope Desmond lets our new manager cash and plenty of players. If he doesn't, I mean, what we need now is just, we need players in just to make sure that we win the league. I mean, I think that we will overtake Hearts in the next month. December's always a month where champions stand up and be counted, and I think December will be the month where Hearts, their bottle's already crashed. It'll be the month where you got to remember, look at all the players that we've got. This is us at our worst. This is us with, do you know, there's more people on sick notes at Celtic than there is good players. And that's saying something. And it's terrible to say that. It's terrible to say that there's more good players actually on the sick bed than there is on the pitch. And you never thought that you would ever have that at Celtic. When you think back to when we had all the injuries in defence and all the changes that we went through then, we had a really bad start to that season. But it ended up being a good season. You know, it did end up being a good season. And it ended up being a good season this year. I still think that Brother Wilfred can win us the treble. And if it does, it'll be what a story. What a story. It's meant to be 9 o'clock, but I am going to the airport. I'm finishing up in 5 minutes. So I did say last night, Chalpil, that it was going to be early today. I am just finishing up just now because I am taking a run to the airport this morning. Anyway, that's me done and dusted. Yeah, he is a better player now. Transfer policy will not change under this board. Well, let's hope it does. On that note, have a fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.